Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next, basically the start of a brand new series of my channel. I talked about this in my channel update video during the week, that I wanted to start a Naruto series, and I got some feedback which I was pretty happy with, and people seem to want me to do it, so I'm going ahead with it. So this video is going to be my first Naruto manga review for the first volume of Naruto, but first of all, some explanations are in order, and I'll straight away say that this part 1 for volume 1 is going to be like probably the longest video of the whole series, just because I want to explain what the series is going to be about, the format I want to do it in, how each review is going to be, and in general, volume 1, I think there's a lot to talk about with the introduction of like everything basically. So this is going to be much longer probably than I expect most of the videos to be. But anyway, so what is this series? As I said, Naruto manga review volume by volume, which means there's going to be 72 videos overall in the series because there are 72 volumes of Naruto. So there's that. Now, what's unique about this series? Like, why am I reviewing it now? I think the uniqueness of this series is going to come from the fact that I'm primarily an anime watcher for Naruto. In that, like, I'm completely caught up with the anime, and I've played the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 game to get the rest of the story, and for the most part I have very little experience with the Naruto manga. I've probably read about 10-15 chapters of the manga total, most of them from the very end of the series to get the stuff that the anime hasn't covered yet, but in general, like 95% of the Naruto manga I haven't read the chapters. So that's what's going to be unique about this series. It's going to be me reading the manga for the first time, experiencing like the original source material and how the anime is different from that sort of thing. So that's the kind of main gist of what's, I suppose, going to be unique about the series. Now, in terms of how I want to do these videos, of course I'm going to start off, general thoughts on the volume, get into some specifics throughout the various chapters in that volume, and then I'm going to end with a couple of kind of my favorite things / awards about the volume. So the couple I'm planning on doing are, at the very end, my favorite character from the volume, talk a little bit about why I feel that this was a good volume for them. That should be very interesting once we kind of get a couple of volumes in and we're not just introducing a bunch of characters. Favorite panel, favorite basically piece of art from the entire volume, so that's self-explanatory. With manga, it's not in motion, so the still shots are going to be like which are my favorite ones. That's fairly self-explanatory. Then the last one is a favorite line, basically favorite quote or conversation, if there's one, from the volume as well. So that's just a way to kind of sum up my favorite bits of each kind of volume at the very end. So I think that's about all the explanation that's really needed. So yeah, let's get into Naruto Volume 1. For the first 27 volumes of this series, I'm going to be going off the 3-in-1 editions of the manga, and then after that I have individual volumes for 28 to 72. So we're just going to be doing the first third of this book. So let's get into this. Volume 1 is titled Uzumaki Naruto, and we're covering the first 7 chapters, which are Chapter 1, Uzumaki Naruto, Chapter 2, Konohamaru, Chapter 3, Enter Sasuke, Chapter 4, Hatake Kakashi, Chapter 5, Pride Goeth Before a Fall, Chapter 6, Not Sasuke, and Chapter 7, Kakashi's Decision. For anyone wondering which events this is, basically it's the start of the series, right up until the very middle of the bell test, where Kakashi, it ends on the cliffhanger of Kakashi saying that you failed my survival exercise, the bell test, but you're not going back to the academy. You're not going to be ninjas anymore. You're not cut out to be shinobis at all. So kind of big cliffhanger ending to the first chapter after a kind of big build-up of hope for like Naruto's gone from nothing to potentially becoming, a proper ninja. So important stuff in the first volume for sure. So overall, I think it's a really good introductory volume, mainly because it gets across Naruto so well. His character, especially early on, playing all the pranks and stuff like that, if without the flashback, I think he would potentially come across as kind of a little bit annoying. But given how quickly, like the first chapter, they explain to you why he does that and the reason for it, and it really instantly makes you sympathetic towards him. And that was a very important thing to do early on. Absolutely, and I always appreciate it when, especially like long running kind of stuff like this, where they don't explain the full backstory. Like they don't go in depth into how the fourth Hokage sealed the Nine Tails away and stuff like that. That comes much later on in the series. But all we need to know from this is just that the fourth Hokage sealed the Nine Tails in Naruto. That's about all we get in terms of like why Naruto has the Nine Tails in him. That story, but just the backstory of who Naruto is, why he is the way he is, how he grew up, how the people of the village treated him, and how that determines like his goal right now. That comes across exceptionally well in this first volume, because they established that okay, he's playing pranks at the start. That can be quite annoying character trait, but they established that it's because he does that because he wants to get attention from the people, because he's used to them just ignoring him, walking by, staring at him with these eyes that just consider him a monster, basically. And so, in his mind, it's better to have people giving out to me and trying to make me fix the mistakes that I made, rather than them looking at me like I shouldn't even be in the village, that I shouldn't exist at all. And that's a really interesting dynamic to have straight away, just that you have this character who is basically like the outcast of the village, and he just acts up to get attention that is not making him seem to be the outcast. And I love how they relate that to Iruka later on, in that they're very similar characters that have been through very similar things, and that Iruka's also an orphan, and especially how they make the connection between Naruto and Iruka, and that it was the Nine Tails who killed Iruka's parents, and to some extent he's held back from the obvious connection with Naruto, even though he wants to help him, in part because of that. And it's just so interesting that like they have similar things, in that like Naruto went down the road of being a prankster to get attention, whereas Iruka kind of became the class clown to get attention when he became an orphan. So that connection is done also really well early on. Like the first chapter absolutely is like the highlight chapter of this entire volume, but you know the other stuff is good as well to kind of get the plot going. But in terms of like really important stuff, I think a lot of it does come in the first chapter. It's a long first chapter, of course, as a kind of pilot chapter, and you know I think the standout scene that really kind of changes things and that makes this a very strong series is, well, obviously Mizuki manipulates Naruto to get the secret scroll and steal it to learn a secret technique and pass the exam that he otherwise failed. But when it's revealed that Mizuki is obviously doing this just to kind of get the scroll himself and make Naruto look bad and stuff like that, Iruka stepping in front of the I think it's called a Demon Wind Shuriken or something like that, and blocking that attack, taking it right in the back, protecting Naruto, when you've seen in the build up to this that Iruka cares for Naruto. There's that scene very early on, when he basically invites him to go to the Ichiraku Ramen. Like just there, he's the one who scolds Naruto and has him clean off the stuff, and then he asks him to go for ramen. Like there's this moment of like, he sees the connection, he wants to help him, he sees something in Naruto, but there's a little bit of a sense of that he's holding back. He's kind of nervous to ask Naruto, and when Mizuki obviously throughout that kind of sequence tries to explain the situation, like to make Naruto feel really bad about the whole idea that like Iruka blames you for the death of his parents, he doesn't care about you, he hates you just as much as everyone else in the village. And so for Naruto to see Iruka kind of save his life by blocking that shuriken, it's a really big moment and it's very emotional. It's probably my favorite overall like sequence from the first volume. Just seeing Iruka kind of block the attack, and Naruto with kind of like a shocked expression ask like, why would you do this after everything that's just been said, and he just explains how similar they are, and then that he feels bad for being so harsh on him, for scolding him, and he feels that he should have been a better teacher. And if he had been, this would have never happened. He would have never had to have taken this bad advice from Mizuki and done all this stuff. And it's interesting then, but like at the end, like what happens is that obviously Naruto, now seeing someone care about him, someone really honestly emotionally care about him, stands up for Iruka then at the end and defeats Mizuki by revealing that he's mastered the Shadow Clone Jutsu technique. And it's a really strong moment, obviously, the moment that really shows that our main character has potential to be amazingly strong, because otherwise we've just seen him fail at kind of everything he's done. And just to kind of hear about the fact that he is super hard working, he just isn't as naturally talented as a lot of other people. That's a really well done thing, absolutely. And I definitely will comment about the first kind of ninja battle that we see between Iruka and Mizuki. Just that sequence where, out of nowhere, it's like Iruka chasing after Naruto when Iruka's just been injured and Mizuki's nowhere to be seen, and then Naruto just knees Iruka in the gut. Iruka pops and it's Mizuki, and then Naruto pops and it's Iruka, and it's just like, that's how clever some of the fights in the series are actually going to be. But that's about all I want to say about the first chapter. Chapter 2, I think, is important because, okay, we get introduced to Konohamaru. I suppose we better get to meet the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. But what I like here is that, okay, we've got established from chapter 1, Naruto's goal is to become the Hokage. And that's a really lofty goal, to become the leader of the village. And you sort of think, like, does he understand that, like, he's not just going to become the Hokage one day just because he wants to? Like, is he really thinking about this? And I think chapter 2, what it really accomplishes is that it shows that he understands how he has to become Hokage, what he has to do to get that role. In that Konohamaru and Ebisu, who's training Konohamaru, they're about like, oh, I'll get you the fast track to becoming Hokage. You'll be able to defeat your grandfather and become Hokage. It'll just happen for you. I like that at the end, Naruto knows that to become Hokage, you first have to gain the respect of the entire village. So his goal isn't just to become Hokage. Almost more importantly than that is to gain the respect of the entire village, so that they don't look at him as the monster anymore, but they actually see him as a respected ninja of the village, and wants to get it to the point where they will choose him to be their leader. And I think that's really strong to establish that he's not just this kind of goofball kid who has a lofty goal, but he understands how hard it's going to be, and actually teaches one of the younger generation of the village that it's also going to take hard work for you to even consider becoming Hokage as well. And so the rivalry between those two starts, the kind of bond between those two. The first two chapters do a really good job at setting up that kind of different generations of the kind of village, in that Iruka becomes like the personal mentor of Naruto. Naruto becomes the personal mentor of Konohamaru, and that's like 3 generations of like connections straight away established just in like the first 2 chapters. And ultimately, Konohamaru and Iruka aren't the most main characters in the series, but they're super important because they're the first 2 characters Naruto like forms a bond with, which becomes very important much later on in the series. Yeah, so the Konohamaru chapter is interesting. You see them do the whole sexy jutsu thing. He teaches it to Konohamaru, and I like the whole time that's kind of his signature technique up until Shadow Clone Jutsu. And just seeing Konohamaru master it, and then how like the third Hokage is taken down by that jutsu, Ebisu is taken down by the harem jutsu and stuff like that. It's very funny. I actually pause at this moment to comment on the book, specifically the official English release of the manga. The one thing that basically from the entire book threw me out of it a little bit was the way some of the terms were translated. Like Naruto referring to Iruka as Master Iruka instead of Iruka Sensei, as I'm used to from the anime, was a little bit like, okay, it's not the worst one, but it's fine. The one that really annoyed me was Shadow Clone Jutsu is referred to as like art of the doppelganger, and they're very inconsistent with regards to like how they just refer to stuff like that. Like they call them they call the overall batch of ninja techniques ninjutsu, but then they also kind of always say, like when they do a jutsu, art of the transformation or stuff like that. It just seems very like not very natural, I suppose, to say when like that's what they're saying instead of like the specific terms. They're just translating it into doppelganger instead of clone just seems a bit weird. I hope as I go through the volumes, it switches over to be more similar to the anime, but it was just little things like that. The village names I didn't have too big of a problem with. You know, they do a little bit go back and forth between saying village hidden in the leaves and then Konoha. But I'm fairly used to that. It was mainly just the whole doppelganger thing instead of clone that really kind of put me off. I hope it goes more anime towards the as the series progresses. But yeah, after the first two chapters, we basically start to get introduced to the members of Team 7. We get introduced to Sakura, we get introduced to Sasuke, and Kakashi, obviously, as their team leader. Actually, that just reminds me of the other translation that was a bit weird to me. They refer to Team 7 as Cell 7. I get what they're going for, and that they're ninjas, they're going to go on dangerous missions, sometimes to kill people, and calling it a cell sort of makes sense, but it's just like, I've never heard anyone like online discussing the show ever refer to it as cell. I think everyone calls it Squad or Team 7, mainly Team 7. But anyway, this is interesting in that like you obviously establish the instant dynamic between the three of just Naruto has a crush on Sakura, Sakura has a huge crush on Sasuke, and Sasuke doesn't really care about either of them. He very much wants to do everything himself. He has a specific goal himself, and that's all he really cares about. We know Naruto's goal, and Sakura, for the most part, like we mainly just know her through this as just she really likes Sasuke, but she really cares about him as well. It's not just a crush. Whereas for Naruto and with Sakura, you definitely get the idea that it is just a kind of crush for him. He doesn't know her all that well. He just kind of finds her attractive. Whereas with Sakura, I think you can really tell early on that she does honestly like really care about Sasuke. But that's kind of like the basic gist of how you establish it. I found it interesting that the manga doesn't have Hinata in the scene. It doesn't actually have any of the other characters like Shikamaru, Ino, Kiba, or anyone like that. Whereas in the anime, the way the scene happens is that you have the quick establishing thing of like, he has a crush on her, she has a crush on him, and then you kind of cut over to Hinata, who's looking over at Naruto. I actually really like the way the anime did that. It's clear that this isn't going to introduce Hinata until a little bit later. I'm actually going to be interested to see where that happens because she's one of my favorite characters. But anyway, that's like the initial impression of their introductions. I like how then the next scene that they kind of have together, once they're put into a team together, is Naruto basically takes out Sasuke at lunchtime, transforms into Sasuke to get how Sakura really feels about him, Naruto. I just really liked how this kind of came out, and that like you have the kind of school kind of type, you're trying to act cool and stuff like that, so they act in a certain way. And then you just have this subtle way of giving you their honest feelings for each other. And that Sakura really lays into Naruto about how like he doesn't care about my feelings, he constantly gets in the way. I blame his parents and stuff like that. The fact that he's like that, he doesn't have to answer to anyone. I'd get scolded by my parents, and you're kind of cringing the whole time she's saying that. And so like when obviously Sasuke comes back and she kind of goes into it again, and you see him just kind of react like, you make me sick, saying stuff like that. It's harsh, but at the same time, it's something she really needed because it shows that Sasuke, even though he finds Naruto and Sakura annoying, I suppose, at this point in time, he does honestly understand what Naruto's going through, having a similar background, though different in a kind of other specific way. I like that it seems like no one on the team is going to defend Naruto, but Sasuke kind of defends Naruto here, and it makes Sakura realize that, oh, the way Sasuke just treated me and how I feel because of that is the exact same way Naruto must feel every time I talk to him. I'm going to make an effort to be better around him. And because Naruto heard what Sakura said about him, he makes an effort to be not as annoying around her. And I suppose Sasuke, towards the end, shows a little bit of care about his teammates when he hears like Sakura screaming in the middle of the test. But it's just an interesting way to introduce them, just like this idea that they're not really all working together. They're making an effort, and to some extent they do understand each other, but their personalities are getting in the way of them really working well together. And then, obviously, Kakashi's introduced, and the next important scene is obviously when he basically asks them, tries to get to know them, asks them the questions. What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your hobbies and dreams? And, you know, with Naruto goes first, and he's just like, okay, I like ramen. I dislike waiting for ramen to cook. I like playing pranks, and I want to be Hokage and gain the respect of everyone in the village. And Kakashi's just like, oh, he's an idiot who just likes food and playing pranks. And then he's like, that's a really interesting goal you have there. And he's like really interested in the way that like he kind of gives this. I think the line he says is something along the lines of like, oh, that's really interesting the way he's turned out. So you get the sense that he's aware of who Naruto is. Like, he obviously knows the whole Nine-Tailed Fox thing. And it's just fascinating that he's... The one thing that interested him about Naruto is that, given how he grew up, he finds it interesting that Naruto is so eager to kind of gain the respect of everyone in the village. And it's the one notable thing he seems to find about Naruto early on. We cut across to Sasuke, and he's basically just like, I don't like a lot of things. I dislike a lot of things I don't like much. I don't like dreams. I don't agree with them. But I do have a goal. My goal is to one day become strong enough to kill someone, basically. And again, Kakashi's kind of like, I had a feeling you'd turn out like this. So he knows who these are, and like they established earlier on that the third Hokage chose Kakashi specifically to be put on the team with these people, in that he obviously thinks that Kakashi can really turn Naruto into a good ninja, and hopefully guide Sasuke back to the proper path. And Sakura obviously is kind of put on the team as this sort of middle ground between the two, but he doesn't get a lot of impression from Sakura because she just talks about Sasuke for her whole kind of intro speech, which obviously leads into the final part of the kind of chapter, which is the first part of the bell test. And you know, it's interesting that like he seems very harsh. Like the way he's introduced is quite like a strict teacher. That he ultimately is my favorite character in all of Naruto, but the way he's introduced, it's almost like this is their first challenge. He's the first villain of the series, almost, kind of the way he's being so hard on them in their training. But you still get a lot of that kind of Kakashi kind of troll-like personality at times, where he just says, you know, don't eat breakfast, you know, before you come to this thing. You don't want to throw up. But the whole time it was part of the plan that he would keep them from eating lunch if they failed. And again, like, it's interesting here the way the test starts, and that he's impressed with Naruto initially, in that like, okay, he was a bit too quick to act, but I like the way he didn't hold back. The second he got serious, he was ready to come at me with like intent to kill, like I said. So I kind of respect that. But he was again dumbfounded when he actually did start the test, and Naruto he was meant to hide, but Naruto just stands up to him to confront him. And again, another one of the coolest action scenes is definitely what Naruto does. The interesting trick where he's thrown into the water. He has one clone kind of come out and look like he's really kind of tired and stuff like that. Then a bunch of other shadow clones come out and surround Kakashi. And while he's distracted, the real Naruto has kind of circled around and grabbed him from behind, and like to make up for the whole Leaf Village secret finger jutsu. He tries to get him from behind as well. But Kakashi, taken by surprise, of course, with Naruto being able to execute such a high level technique, everyone is actually surprised by him being able to make so many shadow clones, and also how clever his technique was. the way he executed the plan, the multi stages of it, that like he had a one decoy, then a big decoy, all hiding the more subtle decoy. It was really impressive actually from Naruto. It kind of even shocked me when I kind of saw that in the anime for the first time and seeing how it's done in the manga here. So I really like that. But obviously Naruto then is basically eliminated by Kakashi. Sakura is taken out very quickly by Genjutsu, making Sasuke look like he's badly injured, which I have to show this page if I can find it quickly. It makes Sasuke, like, I don't remember it looking this kind of brutal in the anime. It's really crazy the way it's done here. Yeah, like, I think for the most part the anime did most of this, but obviously he wasn't missing the arm, and I can't remember if the leg was twisted like that. That seems crazy. But yeah, really well drawn page there. A really shocking one, but obviously it's revealed to be Genjutsu. And that just takes Sakura out, showing that like she really does care about Sasuke, seeing him so badly injured, and it I suppose paints a harsh lesson for her to learn. She's always kind of about love and stuff like that, and wanting to be with Sasuke. So her getting this really harsh thing of like, if you're focusing on Sasuke the entire battle, something really bad like this could happen. So it kind of ultimately teaches her an important lesson. And then with Sasuke, he obviously puts on a really impressive show. Kakashi has to put his book down to fight him. He touches one of the bells but doesn't get it. He demonstrates he can do the fireball jutsu, which, again, that's a kind of translation one that I didn't quite like. The way they did that, it was, what way does he call it? It's called fire style fireball technique. I'm just like, okay, ultimately I suppose that's a very direct translation of fireball jutsu, but I think fireball jutsu just comes across a little bit better to say. But yeah, he impresses him, but ultimately it's the fact that none of them had any teamwork. They all faced kind of Kakashi one-on-one. The only one who showed any sign of caring about someone else was Sakura, but then the thing with her is that she only focused on Sakura while Naruto was fighting Kakashi the whole time. Like, Sakura only focused on Sasuke the entire time Naruto was fighting. But yeah, so the time passes, none of them have got the bells. Kakashi says they failed, and goes as far as to at the end say, none of you will ever be shinobi. Initially, you were meant to fail and go back to the academy for training, but you guys did so badly, you're actually never going to be shinobi again, and that's how it ends. So really, really impressive way to end the chapter. And again, to sum up my thoughts on the volume, really good job. Like, it introduces Naruto, establishes who, as a character who basically he's not close to anyone. No one gives him the attention that he kind of wants. And they very quickly establish, okay, Iruka cares about him. That's his first key bond. And then someone younger in the village seems to kind of look up to him in Konohamaru. Then you establish a teammates who, you know, they have some level of admiration for him with some of the stuff he does, but that's a kind of ongoing process of him gaining the respect of his sensei, Kakashi, and then his two teammates, and wanting to become a shinobi. So it's a really good introductory chapter. Obviously it leaves on a cliffhanger before the end of the bell test, but it accomplishes some really interesting stuff, just getting across you really care for Naruto throughout this entire thing. You want him to succeed, and that's all it needed to do. So let's get into my favorites / awards from the chapter, from the volume. My favorite character from the volume has to go to Naruto. I think early on it'll probably go to him for a bunch of them, but in this one, again, it's for a lot of the same reasons I've just said. Getting his backstory really effectively, understanding who he is, that he knows how hard it's going to be to become Hokage despite having such a big goal. You see that he is clever at times in how he uses his technique, and that he has this kind of sense of how to fool people in battle because he's so different and stuff like that. So I really like that. You don't get a ton of depth on the other characters, but just seeing like Sasuke mention this foreshadowing thing about he wants to kill someone. You don't get a lot from Sakura, but you know, she still wants to do some stuff. You still get the idea that there's something there, but Naruto, absolutely the star of this opening chapter. So many great emotional moments, like him doing the shadow clone jutsu for the first time and getting 1,000 clones and stuff like that. Very impressive. My favorite piece of art from the chapter, let me just find it, is I think it has to be what I just mentioned there, the 1,000 clones kind of attacking Mizuki, and you can see it there. Really impressive, double page spread. They call it obviously here Art of Doppelganger. That's a little bit of a takeaway from the page, but in general, like, I can just imagine how long it took him to draw all those Narutos on that page. It's just insane. Um, really impressive. My favorite line, it might be a surprise to some, but it's from the second chapter. It says, he's at the very end of it to Konohamaru, he says, "Do you get it? There are no shortcuts." I just, as I emphasized a couple of times in the video, I just really like that it just showed that Naruto understands how hard it's going to be. And him saying that to Konohamaru really changes the way Konohamaru feels about things. He teaches Konohamaru more in a day that Ebisu kind of has overall, and it really just served this really interesting thing where, like, Hiruzen's looking at it through the kind of crystal ball, and he's kind of, initially at the start of the chapter, he is so worried about what Naruto and Konohamaru are going to get up to together. But seeing at the end that ultimately there's this really healthy rivalry between the two, Naruto is kind of honestly being a kind of good role model teacher to him, the third Hokage is extremely impressed with what Naruto has just done there, and he has hope for his grandson now after him being a bit worried. I thought that was really impressive. That just that line that he gets it. That even though he's young, he's, as I said, a bit of a goofball. Naruto has some pearls of wisdom in him, so I really like that. So yeah, that's the first volume review. I'm pretty sure I covered about everything I needed to there. I'm not going to get into every specific moment, especially this first volume where things were packed. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the format. As I said, this video, as the first one, was going to be very long anyway. They're going to be a lot shorter going forward. So give me your thoughts on the format and stuff like that in the comments. But other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.